Wonderful. What it is that we're looking for you to do is we're going to put you in positions where you start learning and mastering the proprioceptive awareness, the muscle mind connection of your pelvic floor muscles, which essentially boil down to technically your core, like we train, and it's literally the muscles that stop you from peeing, like mid pee. You like imagine you're going to the bathroom, and you're like, oh no, something happened. It's an emergency. You got to stop your pee, pull your pants up, and go. The muscles that you contract in order to do that is part of your pelvic floor. Same thing with your pooping. Mid poop, you got to stop it. Those are the muscles we're doing. So first things first, we're gonna end up doing two things. The first one is gonna be an active exercise. The second one's gonna be a relaxation technique. But doing a little bit of research, trying to figure out how to handle these things without like going in and manipulating stuff, because that's not something I can do, obviously. But yeah, so we're gonna give these a shot. If anything's uncomfortable, I don't believe there should be pain, but since this is new territory, I can't guarantee that there won't be. If there is, then just stop. So session should just stop all the pain. So first things first, the active part. We're gonna go into our 90-90, right, like we normally do. Take our back, push it into the ground a little bit. We're gonna use our glutes and our hams to kind of tug our hips a little bit off the ground, right? You can also put it back on the ground because it's not important for this one. Let me tuck these in so you can see what I'm doing. And so what you want to do first things first is you want to draw your belly in. Actually, is this going to be a better angle? Oh, there we go. Why didn't I think of that earlier? Silly me. So first things first, right? Pretend this arm isn't here. We're going to draw our belly button down into the floor and then that way, kind of like a vacuum, if you've ever heard of the vacuum ab exercise. So that's going to look like, you can't really see, but so this is me normally, right? My hand is representation. You're gonna go breathe all your air out. It's not so much a sucking in as it is a pushing down and down that way. So you're gonna get this deep pressure on the inside of here. You might get it on the sides and in the back too. It's totally fine. It's just part of the process. So push abs in and down, right? Now you're gonna squeeze those muscles that stop you from peeing and pooping. One way you know that you're doing it correct is initially your butthole is going to clench. Eventually, that will be a separate sensation since you will have total control. What we're doing is essentially modified Kegels, except these actually work, potentially. So, drawing your abs in, squeezing those muscles, those pelvic floor muscles, after you're drawing them up, right? So your stomach is being drawn down, it's going down, and your pelvic muscles are being drawn up. So it's kind of going towards each other. And that's what I want you to picture this whole time. It's going to take time to figure this out. So what that's going to look like, not that it's going to be easy to see in a video, but we can talk about this, communicate, it'll be fine, is get in your position, tuck your hips, bring the belly in and down, and also squeeze those things, draw it together. So it's, if you extend through your T-spine, it might also help isolate the lower part. You can also go into extension if you need to, tucking, hunt around, feel where you can get that deep contraction in there. Some people have said that this can initiate an orgasm. If that does happen, don't worry about it. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. It could just be part of the whole thing. Enough of that anyways. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull it in, pull both things in as hard as we can, as long as we can, right? We're going to do it for time, and then we're going to breathe in slowly, expand the rib cage, breathe into your diaphragm, breathe into your balls like we talked about, and relax. And then you're going to slightly squeeze those pelvic floor muscles independently, just lightly, nothing hard. 3, 4, 5 reps. And then once you have gained your breath, because it is hard on your lungs, you're going to do the same thing. Diaphragmatic in, down, butthole up, squeeze as long as you can. big deep breath. Relax and follow that by very mild contractions, controlled contractions. We're trying to create that mind-muscle connection. Now, one thing you can do to see if you're doing this right, because a lot of people have trouble just initially squeezing those pelvic floor muscles in the first place, right? There's two things you can do. There's one that's kind of gross, and then there's another one that's less gross, but also still kind of gross. First one is you can actually take your fingers, put them as close to the butthole as you are comfortable, and you will, while you're squeezing, and you will feel the contraction. The other thing you can do is there's this area called the gooch or the taint. I'm sure it has a technical term, but it's like an inch and a half between your private parts and your butthole, right? It's also a private part, I guess. And that's where your muscles, like the levator ani and all the other, the bulbosum, spongiosum nonsense in there. It's a bunch of muscles you don't need to know. But you can literally put your hand in there, just press firmly, it doesn't have to be hard, broad contact, no pointing, but like broad along the finger, and you can just squeeze, unsqueeze, squeeze, unsqueeze, and you'll feel it kind of protrude and contract, like if you were to feel your bicep when you do a curl, right? So that's one way to do it, and you can start by having your hand there because that'll actually start the neural patterning process. So the second thing we're gonna do after you've done your active parts is, so we're gonna go ahead and try 10 sets we're gonna go let's call it 5 sets of those squeezings for time, as long as you can, and then relax. Some flutter squeezes like we talked about just a couple minutes ago, and then go to another set. So 5 total sets. And then we're gonna be in the same position with your legs kind of open, right? And you're gonna just breathe deep into your lower parts like we just did, except instead of breathing down and down, we're gonna expand up and kind of out, and it's supposed to be very, very relaxing, right? And this is when you take those tight muscles that we just like really worked really hard, we're gonna use our breathing and our control to relax them. This is the key. This is what we're trying to do. We're trying to relax those bottom muscles. That's what the needling does. That's what some people take some drugs for. There's a lot of side effects. Do not recommend it. Also, we're trying to repattern. We don't need to get into the specifics, even though it's my favorite part, but we don't have to get into that the technical nonsense. So it's just your deep breathing, and allow your belly to expand this way. Let your butthole and all those little areas downstairs expand this way, and just really breathe into it. You can have your hands over your head. The whole idea is to relax. So get yourself, 10 or 20 deep breaths. And the kind of breaths I want you to do, like we just talked about, expand the butthole down, but also at the top of the breath, kind of hold it a little bit, but use your diaphragm to hold it, and then just slowly let your air out and let all of the air out. So it's going to look something along the lines of and then you can take a nice calming breath after. The whole point is, oh, there goes my hat. The whole point is essentially to inhale all the way, and then the slow, controlled exhale, specifically exhaling all of your air, is going to kickstart your CNS and be like, hey, I can chill out. What muscles can I start like chilling the tone down? And as we build that mental connection and the actual patterning in your brain, your spinal cord, you will get more proficient at this relaxation thing. And this is something you can do any time of day. I do recommend at least once a day. The exercises you can do as many times a day as you want. You might feel DOMS, by the way, delayed onset muscle soreness. You might get a little bit of soreness in your downstairs, in your butthole. Totally fine. If it's cramping, which when I first started doing these, it got crampy. So be careful. We'll cut the sets in half if that starts to happen. It's not fun. But yeah, keep me updated on that. Full exhale breathing, and that's the kind of breathing you can do any time of day. Doesn't matter the physical position that you're in. You don't have to be on a 90-90 like this. You could be sitting in your chair at school, you could be standing, it doesn't really matter. But full deep breath in, slow deep breath out, all your air goes out. It might feel like you're suffocating at first, but you'll get used to it. Is there anything else to this? I believe that's everything for now, but let me know how this goes, and if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. If it works, then great.